Welcome to AEC Stories. This is former SM3 Dempsey of the USS Mount Hood. And this is our podcast. Today I've got a special guest, a good friend of mine I've known since back in the 80s. Gunners Mate and great surfer, very daring man who rides motorcycles and does cool stuff. But you're not knowing who it is by now? I'm going to have to tell you. It's Mark Hillabrandt. How you doing, Mark?
Hey, Len. What's up, man?
Doing pretty good. You get to hang out in my little area today, a little away from your beach, over here on the East Bay.
Yeah, San Ramon. Yeah.
It's people vacation here a lot. I'm being sarcastic. It's like a corporate town.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of nondescript mall, right?
It's wonderful.
You're so generous, Mark.
Yes.
So, I want to ask you, what made you choose the Navy versus the Army or the Air Force when you were in high school? How did you were telling me earlier, you didn't want to go to school even though you had a scholarship and get enough school. Where was your head at during that time?
Well, like I said, I was a pole vaulter, and believe it or not, my fat ass now is pole vaulter. But I just had enough of school. I was stuck in a podunk town in Michigan. Needed to get out, either get out or get in trouble, go to jail, whatever. So my dad was in the Navy. He was on the USS Saratoga. And my uncle was a Airedale too. And he was stationed in Texas somewhere, but inland, not for sure. But I remember seeing this old cruise book of my dad's old cruise book, and going through it and looking at the pictures and that type of thing. And I'm like, all right, that might be something. And one of my buddies was like, let's join the Navy. So I'm like, oh, what the fuck? Let's go join the Navy, right?
You didn't even think Air Force or nothing? Just
nothing?
Navy.
No, just...
Dad did it.
Navy.
It's good enough for Dad. It's good enough for me.
Yeah, and then he wound up backing out, and I'm like, found out I was like, well, I was in Ionia, Michigan, Podunk town, USA.
How big of a town was that?
Oh, not like population 2,000, 3,000 maybe, It was a good town, but, it's like I was bored with it.
I can imagine.
I was bored with it, and I found out I'm going to San Diego for boot camp.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how about that?
Well, had you ever dreamed about going to California beforehand?
Absolutely.
Were you watching all the popular movies like Fast Times at Ridgemont High and whatever else came out about that area? I mean, that's what drew me to it.
Well, what drew me to it was...
Maybe even Chips, sorry.
the first Lake Michigan, believe it or not, is the first spot I surfed my first wave.
I've seen some of that where a couple of guys do it. They had it on a show I watched recently.
Yeah, and it was not a big wave or whatever. And actually, it was like the styrofoam promotional surfboard that was in this guy's liquor store, and I begged him to take it, and he gave it to me. And I took it, and I belly womped a wave in Grand Haven, and the bug bit me.
Yeah.
Right. The surfing bug bit me. I'm like, oh. So that's kind of what took me to the whole thing.
Did you watch the movie The Big Wednesday when you were a kid?
I didn't watch it when I was a kid, but when I became a surfer, I watched The Big Wednesday, and it was like, when I was a novice surfer, I watched it. I tried to get myself all up to
fired
speed.
up.
See,
maybe there's something to pick off on the movie.
Yeah,
right?
But yeah. Big Wednesday's good.
Yeah, that was a classic. I saw the previews as a kid. I think it was rated R, so my parents wouldn't let me see it. Yeah. I was probably 8 or 9 or 10. I go, wow, the Big Wednesday's coming. What is it? It's this wave. I'm like waiting to see some tidal wave. I saw the movie many, many years later, probably 30 years later. I had to look for it. Gary Busey's in it. But
Gary Busey, Jan Michael Vincent.
Yeah, Jan Michael Vincent, big star of that era.
Yeah, he was a big surf star.
That was something about the allure of California. Did you skateboard when you were a kid?
Yeah, I was like I say, Podunk Town, Michigan. I'm like one of the only people would see me skateboarding, and they'd be like, "What the hell you doing, boy?"
I was a skateboarder too, all the way in Italy, and I caught wind of Dogtown Z-Boys, which was coming all the way from California. I think I brought it up on another cast, but it didn't get this deep. My dad bought me a skateboard because he went to San Luis Obispo for a workshop. He was a teacher. He's like, "Hey, you're going to skateboard. All the kids in California are doing it." So he got me a skateboard, and I tried to skateboard before, and I couldn't. For some reason, I couldn't get my foot balanced. Then one night, I had a dream. I was skateboarding. This is really weird. And I looked at my foot placement in the dream. I woke up the next day, and I knew how to skateboard. I didn't need any more lessons. I had it. So, some guys will put their foot too far back or whatever, but I wasn't doing any skate parks, just street skating. How about you?
Well, yeah, I've done a lot of, I'm not really a trickster guy, but I did a lot of downhill and pool skating, but I'm with you, Dogtown, all those guys. It's kind of funny, through my years of being in California for what the Navy brought me to,
You got all of it.
Got me all of it. And Jay Adams, I wound up meeting that guy and knowing him personally before he died a few years ago. And
was he a protagonist in the movie? And
yeah,
which one? Which was that
was Dogtown
Z-Boys?
Z-Boys, yeah, he was the main guy along with Tony Avila. But
the blonde kid, right?
Yep.
Okay.
But
another good movie for you guys to check out. Go on.
But I would never experienced it if I didn't go to boot camp in San Diego into the Navy.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
It's kind of the law of attraction.
I think a lot of us followed suit with that too. I mean, everybody's from somewhere. Not too many people are from,
the place.
The place, right?
I grew up in a really cool place. I didn't know how cool it was until I left. I got used to it. But I will say that I watched movies, and I was a military brat. So there was kids from all 50 states. There goes the Brewskis. It's going to be a very special podcast. But anyways, this is what manly men do when they do podcasting. So I watched movies, and I talked to every kid from every state. So what's it like where you're from in Kansas or Missouri, Montana, or whatever? And the coolest kids I thought was cool. I was just basing it on cool appeal. Were the Californians? They were so progressive.
Right? Yeah,
they had cool style. They had different ways. They had different music. And I'm like,
yeah,
okay, I want to go there. So
I want to be that too.
It was a goal.
I want to be that too.
Yeah,
it's no lie. It's like, and
now we've become.
Oh, what happened?
You set out with a goal when you're a kid, but now you live in one of the surf capitals of the world in Santa Cruz.
I do.
And part of that, you get part of your Navy life. You see the ocean every day, and the other part, you've got your surfing life.
My surfing, my fishing. I do a lot of fishing now.
You get your own boat, right?
Got my own boat in the harbor. Yeah, I've had it for about 5 years now. So,
how far out do you usually go in your boat? I mean, the waters and all. I don't even.
Oh, it depends where the fish are.
Like how far off the coast will you go?
Around 20, 25 miles.
Okay.
Yep.
International waters.
No international. Not with the 24-foot boat I got, but the bigger one's coming.
Well, that's pretty cool. So you saw that. You ended up going to Navy boot camp in the Navy. Yep. What did you think about it? What time did you get there? What time did you arrive to boot camp?
That's a story in itself. So I got on the plane in December from Michigan, and I got off the plane in San Diego and had a big coat on, winter coat and everything. I got out of the airport onto the Navy bus, right?
Yeah.
And there's those palm trees in San Diego, and it's like
instant euphoria.
And it was like 65 degrees, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm in heaven.
Oh my God. And then I got on the bus, and then boot camp starts, But honestly, the boot camp was so easy. I mean, we all know boot camp was easy, but I was so sick of the mundane Michigan thing. I just wanted to change so much that it was I enjoyed it more than anything. It changed the pace.
You're going from elevator music to rock and roll.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly.
So I can see that. Like you get the small town thing, your options are limited. You're 18, 19 years old. Some people are 17.
I was 17, yeah.
17, you're like, well, I guess we're at the end of the line here, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what year was that? 1980?
That was 1987, yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
You got here in December. Was it at night or was it in the morning?
It was at night. It was like...
That's on purpose.
Yeah, on purpose. It was a red-eye flight. I think it was like maybe 1 o'clock in the morning when we got out to the boot camp bus.
Yeah, see, the secret of the boot camp planners is being revealed, you see.
Exactly.
Because I flew into O'Hare in Chicago to Great Lakes. We had the opposite. We had guys that were wearing like California clothes showing up to the winter in Chicago, which is gnarly, kind of like where you live. I mean, right next to it.
Yeah.
Some of the coldest place on earth with all that wind coming off the wind chill plus the coldness.
Don't you know?
Yeah, well, it was entertaining.
Yeah.
So, was there any other exciting or interesting, entertaining stories that happened while you were in boot camp? Any silly guys getting in trouble or?
It just, it's pretty much me, I was a perpetual smile on my face the whole time, because I was just pretty much happy. I'm like, this is badass.
I'm just glad to be here.
I'm
They're
glad
like
to
he's
be
not
here.
supposed to like it.
And it was kind of funny because it was the first time I ever met a Filipino.
Yeah.
And my senior chief drill instructor, Senior Chief Perez, I still remember him to the day, but he'd always he'd be on me because I'd always be smiling, and he'd be like, "Hillabrandt, why are you fucking smiling all the time?" And it just make me laugh, right? So I was like, he's like, "Push-ups, fucking Hillabrandt." Yeah, that was my highlight of boot camp is introduction to the Filipino slang.
Well, it's interesting. My geography was really good for Europe, and I knew somewhat about, Latino culture, but I didn't know much about the Philippines, and I thought they were speaking a different form of Spanish I didn't understand. Then I realized, the Philippines.
Yeah.
And then I understood.
The dialect.
Since, I even later studied Filipino martial arts. I have a lot of Filipino friends, but at first I was like, what is this? Because you're from a small town and everyone's got the same accent, speaks a certain way, and
right.
You hear somebody from New York, how you doing? Hey, yo, hey, how you doing?
Uh-huh.
Someone like Sonny Bliss.
Yeah.
And then someone like you from Michigan, and then there's a guy from the South, this deep South.
Oh, yeah.
Did you make or keep any friends from boot camp, or they just pass through right
boot camp? Yes, pretty much. Kept track with a couple for a minute while, after I got on the Mount Hood, there's a cat, Mark Eaton. I think he was on the Wichita.
Okay.
So I kept contact with him. I think we partied a little bit in the Philippines one time when we're on deployment together.
Landed.
Yep. But other than that, no.
Yeah, I had a good friend from there, Mark Levy. Haven't been able to find him. But I think he had cancer, but they gave him all the steroids and stuff and kept him in the Navy. And I saw him one year, and the next year I saw him, he was all buff. I'm like, wow, what happened to you? Yeah. But he had these rings on his eyes, but they let him through. So I don't know. So did you go to seaman school after that?
Seaman school?
Yeah, after, where they send all the deck people.
That would be Seaman Apprenticeship School.
I like to call it seaman school because I didn't go there.
Yes, I went to Seaman
school.
Seaman Apprenticeship School. Yep, I sure did. Went to Seaman Apprenticeship School and graduated there. And what is it? I went back to Michigan for I don't know, right after you get out of the school, and then you get that break. And I remember checking back in San Diego and with my orders, and I took a Greyhound bus from San Diego all the way to San Francisco. Oh, that in itself is a nightmare story. But I remember stopping in Compton overnight, the bus driver guys like go in that hotel and do not come out, white boy.
Like,
It's like,
okay, why do we have to stop here?
You have no business. But you know what? I went in there, put my stuff in a locker, and went down the street and went and bought a beer, being like fresh off the tune, looking like I was 12, but they still sold it to me because I was in a Navy uniform, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember the next day, it was another like 12-hour trip, and we got up to San Francisco, and
It was a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, so the
Telling
ride
ya.
took longer.
telling you.
That's back when the speed limit was 55 miles an hour all over the States.
And I remember going to TPU in Treasure Island, right? Waiting for the Mount Hood to show up. And that's where Mark Thagard became Chief Thagard, and Jay Donato, Chavez. I forget his first name again, but he was an LA boy. He was a cool dude. Yeah, it was cool. We waited for the Mount Hood to show up, come back from some kind of cruise or
The World Cruise. It was the World. No,
it was
probably just Rough Trade. Or
I think it was
something.
Rough Trade.
Yeah, Rough Trade. We were in San
I
Diego.
think I think it was Rough Trade.
Okay, I
and,
remember. I know exactly the timeline.
and that's when I got onto the Mount Hood. Yep, we all checked in, and remember we got on there late at night too. Next morning we got up, and Thagard got put into second division, I think. Donato went to first division, I believe. Chavez maybe the same, and I went to stream division. And oh boy.
So this is you guys did a lot of unrep and maintaining the ship. You were in deck initially, but you later strike into weapons and become a gunner's mate.
Yep.
So what did all those? I mean, just to ask you, because I didn't work down there, I could look from the signal bridge in my fancy little condo. But I mean, each division had its specialty. And I haven't even asked some other shipmates. So what was the part of the unrep when we would send munitions back and forth to other ships? What part did your team do?
Oh, well, I drove a lot of forklift. I would shoot on the M14. You'd shoot the shot line over.
Yeah.
Right. So I would do that, but a lot of forklift driving, a lot of loading bombs.
Maybe were you thinking when I get out of the Navy, I'm going to drive a fork truck?
I'm a big forklift driver.
Well, yeah, you'd think like that'd be some lucrative job because we weren't getting paid that much.
No, we weren't.
You remember how little we got paid as a E1
yeah.
back then? $280 every 2 weeks, man.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how we survive. And then the Navy gives you chow. You're like, you don't give me chow, man. You give me lower than homeless shelter food here, bro.
Oh yeah.
I mean, sometimes it was good. I'm not picking on the cooking, but the ingredients weren't the greatest. Is my point.
Yeah, but you know what? It's like I kind of came up poor as a kid. Didn't have a lot of money. It was always kind of scratching for everything. But I'll tell you, the first few paychecks when I started getting them, man, it's like I would go buy clothes, dude. I had a good wardrobe, man. Mm-hmm. Even some of the brothers would borrow some of my clothes, and it was pretty funny. Ha ha.
You used to like to pick out your style.
Oh, yeah.
You're the one that had those short boots. That was you. You had those short boots and the peg leg Z Cavarici pants. What's up with that, huh?
Oh yeah.
Wearing your duster.
Polka dot shirts. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you were going with whatever was hip. I don't know where your tailor was, but
I don't know.
You were trying to look MTV and shit.
God damn. I'm glad there's no pictures of that these days. I'm sure there is, but keep them to yourself.
I mean, if anyone's got any nice photographs, they can send in. Mark, maybe wearing one of those loop snake-like belts, whatever those were. Remember we had those weird belts?
Oh, yeah.
We'd roll them so they were hanging down the tip of it. That was really weird.
Oh, yeah. I had the creeper shoes, too. Big, tall creepers.
So
the soles.
What did you think of San Francisco when you first got here?
Oh, I loved it. I fell in love with it from the day, I still do. I go to I live in Santa Cruz, and I go to San Francisco all the time, and still do the tourist thing and type of thing, relive a lot of. I go to the bars that we all used to go to. Mm-hmm. They're still there and that type of thing. But
which bars did you go to? That's what I was going to ask you. I'll tell you which ones I went to.
Tolls and all
We all
the
know about tolls. Did you ever go to Bouncers?
and hula hands and
Yes, my favorite.
geez, man, a bunch of them are not even open. The Holy Cow, that's a whole different thing. You know, when I started to work for Live 105, when I was a doorman a couple times there, and that just was like that's a whole different story.
That's
too.
a freaky scene.
Yeah, that was awesome.
It's like a
though.
Boy George video.
Yeah,
mixed with.
Well, I don't know about that, but
It's kind of like I'm just talking like his style was extreme when he was on MTV.
yeah,
It was just
that's
over the
back
top.
when I had a great big old blonde pompadour and
Oh yeah, he looked like Johnny Bravo back then. I remember. So Hula Hands, that was one of my favorite spots.
Yeah, I like the Holy Cow and Club X and all those
Club
places.
X was my jam too. I like Club X.
At DV8, what was DV8?
DV8 was
and,
cool.
Where else was that place?
Did you go ever party up in Little Italy?
Little Italy. Oh yeah.
I go to Savoy's and I just go to little bars there, like warm up before I'd go out clubbing.
Yeah, Palladium.
Palladium, on Broadway.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Did you ever go to Hot Rods in Alameda?
You ever go to Big Al's?
Big House. That was a strip joint, right?
Yeah, that was something.
I think a lot of guys, they'd like strip joints. It was typical Navy indoctrination for a young man. And
absolutely.
What was that? There was a big theater downtown, the Mitchell Brothers. That's where
Mitchell Brothers, yep.
Guys would come back with photographs of their favorite starlet. And
yeah.
I'm like, okay, the group photo. I'm like, okay, the weird things that guys would buy in the Navy, they'd either get scammed by some con man or some Scientologist or somebody waiting for them off the ship with their paycheck.
Oh, yeah. There's a bunch of
guys that come back gaffled and hustled. And
oh, yeah. There's some hustlers trying to get the boot camps to,
So when did you discover Santa Cruz? I mean, you're a surfer guy.
Well, how I discovered Santa Cruz was before I even got on the Mount Hood, the guy that was in apprenticeship training with was from Santa Cruz. And I wound up coming up to Treasure Island, being stationed up here. And while I was waiting on the Mount Hood, I got a hold of him and went down to Santa Cruz, and it's kind of been my home. Even the whole time I was on the Mount Hood, I was always down in Santa Cruz.
When you weren't at DV8s and Hula Hands.
Well, I was there too, but...
Oh, when you had weekend off, right?
Weekend off, yeah.
There's no way you're going for just one day. Sometimes, maybe.
Nah, yeah. One day was kind of tough back then, especially not having a great car. But some of you people remember my Volkswagen and that kind of car. That
At least you had a car.
I had a car.
I didn't have one for the longest time. I thought cars were illegal. I'm like, why am I going to make a car payment when we got to sea for 8 to 12 months,
Yep.
I mean, yeah, it was 6-month Westpac, but then we come back and, ref tray, 2 or 3 weeks. Oh, we're going to Hawaii just because. There's another couple weeks,
Yep. But having that car then was nice, so.
What was your favorite, port to pull into when you're on the hood?
Well, I got to say the Philippines.
Oh, because they had really good pizza.
Pizza. Pizza what?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Philippines is a place a lot of young men got some training. It's a very entertaining place. A lot of good music, good nightlife.
Yeah, but that was a spot too that we all kind of learned to meld together too.
We get to play grown-ups there because we could live off the ship. We couldn't afford to rent on our basic enlisted pay unless we were married. Right. So as single guys in that country with $20, you could go out, drink all night, dance all night, and get a luxury hotel room and walk home with money in your pocket.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've rented a place off base. Did you?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, I did.
I lived downtown, just probably halfway down Masaysay, and then to the right, I got a townhouse. It wasn't too far from the front gate.
Yeah.
I had a place way out in the boonies, that big old mansion I rented at one time, but I was like, I get tired of taking an hour ride by jeepney to get to my house.
Well, when we went dry dock there.
Yeah, when we went dry dock.
When we went dry dock, I lived out in some palapa shack with some chick, at the end of Masaysay. I guess a Baguio Barreto or something.
Baguio Barreto, yeah.
Back out there. Oh boy,
you had to take the extra jeepney to get out the Barreto.
Yeah, but it was worth it.
Yeah, I think the wilder side of things was probably Barrio, and then you had to watch out because I did a podcast with BT3 gains, BT2 later. And he was talking about how he get dosed. He get like roofied by some chick. And I go, you know what? And it reminded me, I didn't realize all these years I forgot. Oh, yeah, I got roofied one night, too.
Yeah, I imagine I did, too. I know I had
You have to be careful.
a knife to my throat there because, you know, we all had like our necklaces on and gold and all that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
yeah,
and,
we were rich in a very poor country.
Yeah, and I remember getting ripped off for our necklaces and and our cash while we were sitting in some bar out there.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah. It's all good.
It was a blast. I mean, you go from coming back to California where you can't afford rent, you blow your check in a day and a half between doing laundry and you want to order one of them $20 pizzas because you just like the taste of it and you can't normally eat it. And then whatever else you buy, which isn't too much, you day drink and then you night drink one night, your paycheck's gone for 2 weeks. That was a pretty standard op for a lot of guys out there.
Well, maybe for you, but, you know, I would lend money to other people.
Oh,
you know what
I know exactly what you mean.
A little slush.
Personal banking. It's pretty common.
Yep.
You know, it's like you get smart enough not to keep falling in the well anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, okay, yeah, you want to go to the well? Sure, go ahead.
Go to the well.
Did you?
It's not going to be cheap.
Did you see any good concerts or anything out in the city?
Oh, through the years?
When you were like staying on the ship?
Oh,
I did. I got lucky that way.
I think I probably did, especially with the whole Live 105 thing when I was hanging out with those guys and saw a bunch of shows, but nothing that can really stick in my head. But
right,
because I've probably seen so many, you know, I went to a bunch.
There was that big rock club that was like heavy metal club on Broadway.
Oh, the Stone.
The Stone, yeah.
Yeah, I did. I think I've seen the Red Hot Chili Peppers there when they were called the Red Hots back.
See? I knew I'd pull it out of you.
Yeah. So, you know, I've seen a lot of shows. That's where I kind of...
eclectic stuff like the Bengals, because Susanna Hoff was gorgeous.
The Bengals.
Gauss, of all people, goes, Dempsey, we're going to go. We got tickets to the Bengals at the Warfield. I'm like, we're going to go see an all-chick rock group. That's amazing. And ironically, all I did see while I was in the Navy was all female, like top female performance artists. Samantha Fox, the Bengals, and Joan Jett when I was in boot camp over in Great Lakes. They had her do a USO thing.
Cool.
That was my musical background.
Yeah, I kind of all in the, hit me hard with the modern rock, you know, scene in San Francisco.
INXS and all that kind of stuff.
And New Order and all that type of thing, you know.
Depeche Mode and
all that stuff.
No, I was into that too.
Yeah,
I
still am, you know.
I liked everything that came in the era.
Yeah, it was a good modern rock era for sure.
I thought it was funny because I did a podcast the other week with BM3 Teresi, and he's a big old dude, as you know, and he was talking about how he was dancing to Soft Cell in Hong Kong because he was hammered, putting him like some Spandau ballet demonstration, and they're all applauding him, and he's like, I never do that anymore.
But he was like the Slayer guy, you know?
Oh, he was a beast.
Yeah.
He's the guy that would play, you know, Ogre on like the Animal House movie or something.
Exactly. Totally.
But he's
Dave.
We love you, Dave.
Dave.
I love doing podcasts with him. But, you know, it's interesting to see what happens in life. Did you end up where you thought you would be, or how much of the big picture that you imagined at 19 came to be what it is today?
Oh, pretty much did good with the whole thing, you know. I had a good career, 18 and a half years in the Navy, you know. Just made chief when I got out. I would have made chief probably way earlier, but I made E5 twice.
Oh, yeah.
Right? If you guys remember one time in Malaysia, this little fight in Malaysia.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of set me back a little bit.
There?
Yep.
Yeah, that fight with you and Ortega. See, I got his podcast coming out. Mm-hmm. What started that fight? We're going to more people have to tune in to get the piece this story together. That's what's cool about different episodes.
You know, I got that's a whole different story. And there were some punk ass bitches that ran out the back door that were supposed to be guarding our back. And funny enough, I got into another unit and there was one of those guys that was there.
Yeah.
And, well, I ratted him out.
Yeah.
To everybody else. And pretty much they all knew what he was about anyways. So.
Oh, well. I mean, did that just start with a bunch of guys rolled up and wanted to get some kung fu guys rolled up on you guys, or what? Was it some locals that had a beef?
Man. You know what it was? What really happened? It was
I'm trying to understand who the enemy was.
BM1 Brooks was there, and Paul Hansen was there, and I was there, and we were dancing with all the girls, right? And the local dudes didn't like it. And they
that is the forbidden dance. That is the lambada.
Well, you know, they started it, you know, and boy, we went after it. We finished it pretty good. Everybody came out with stitches, but that was a good fight, man. That was like a Hollywood
something out of the
scene.
movie Hooper.
Yeah.
Everybody's getting thrown out the window.
Yeah, dude, it was freaking awesome.
Yeah,
I'd do it again in a heartbeat. I'd do it right now.
But of your ports, the Philippines, Malaysia, what other port did you like, or were you impressed with?
I liked spent a lot of time off the mountain in my other duty stations. I spent a lot of time in Thailand and Sigonella, Italy.
It's a beautiful place.
Oh yeah, I love it there. Actually, believe it or not, Korea. I didn't like Korea at first.
Well, is that because we just pulled into Busan?
Yeah.
So we pulled into you make your first impression wherever you go based on where you land. I mean, if you come to the States and you went to where you grew up, like, this is America, and you're like, a small town with 20 people in it.
You know, Korea's great though, but you know, I kind of like the South Pacific, the Philippines, Thailand, Indonesia. I've been to Australia in the Navy.
How was that? Did that live up to the hype?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And more. Because I'm a surfer, right? So I got
You're an American and a surfer.
Yeah. And it just worked out good for me.
How was the surfing?
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Great.
The people were friendly and the women were beautiful. And
the people
of sailors.
You know, not so much, but the surf was good, and the chicks were good after you got them drunk enough.
Then you became attractive as the guard dropped.
Well, like always.
No, I always hear that Australia guys would go UA, they'd meet some beautiful girl, and they'd never want to come back.
No, it was good. It could be that way, you know. It's more that way like in Indonesia, and I think it's maybe even more that way in the Philippines, you know.
Yeah.
Look how many guys that were...
They found their wife there.
Podunk town guys that really never had a girlfriend before, then met their first love. Their first one was her first love, and they get married.
Yeah.
But no,
there's a lot.
We had a lot of good chiefs too on the ship that
are still married to their Filipino wives.
That's true, or would tell them, no, you're not getting married, or easy, Johnny boy.
Right. Well, when you're young, they're like, make that decision in 10 years from now after you've been here a few times, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But like, I don't know. What about the people that get married on our ship? They're still married, and I call it bonded in war. That's my call for it.
Hey.
You know, if you served, you went somewhere scary together, you met there, maybe that heightens the bond for a relationship. Like, if we can handle this, we're mad, we're fighting over this piece of pizza. This isn't an argument. Let's just stay happy and stay married.
Well, it's true.
There's several couples. There's the Gainies, they're married. And
Gainies are married. Cadlicks, yep.
And
hey, Cadlicks, what's up? I had a good time with you guys at the reunion.
That's for you, Cadlick. You better be on the podcast soon. I know you're too busy buying Corvettes or something. I know that's what he does.
That and Mind Doc, right?
Yeah, Mind Doc. She was supposed to be on the other day.
Yep.
Mind Doc is out there trying to help all the veterans that have disabilities, and she's got some legal training, and
that's good.
She's really trying to help out people because they don't really tell you what to do when you get out.
Yeah.
There's no national advertising for you have veterans.
Do it, Dorothy. Keep up the good work.
Keep it fired up. So on the ship, you were in deck. What was the difference between being in deck and then eventually going over to weapons division?
Well, being in deck, Bosun Johnson, BM1 Jones, Giebler, Renteria, all those guys, Williams.
Renteria was a strong dude.
Rich Williams and all those guys I came up with, leading seaman, Rich Williams.
You may, I'm going to stop you there. I got to find Renteria. He was super strong.
Jaime Renteria. Yep, he lives in Fremont. We need to hook him up. We got to find him again. Yep.
He was a cool guy. Me and him used to ride together. He used to give me rides from my,
I know where he lives
at the time or whatever.
He actually had cancer.
Oh, really?
Sorry, Jaime. But he beat it. Hopefully he kept beating it.
Yeah.
So we got to find Jaime.
That was a guy that could bench press like.
Oh yeah, he was a strong boy. Yeah.
He was one of the strongest guys I'd seen in the weight room. I'm like,
cockstrong dude.
Well, he was going to become a plumber when he get out. I talked to him because he used to give me a ride to the ship when we were in dry dock.
He did. He became not HVAC.
HVAC.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. When I worked in Milpitas, he lives in Milpitas. Yep.
So you ran into him after all these years?
I ran into him years ago. Hopefully you're still out there and safe, Jaime.
We will find you, buddy.
But I went in deck, and I learned a lot. My bosun mate side of me is still strong. I kept that with me my whole Navy career, which I'm really glad that I did that. But also
shows you what you can endure.
Yeah, it showed me what I can endure. But I knew I wanted to become. I like guns, and I wanted to become. I just like the gunner's mate aspect of it. Not so much driving forklift, but shooting guns. Which paid off in big dividends down the road, and the rest of my career. But, then I went into weapons division and really had to.
Was it a higher what were the standards like? Bosun Johnson, everybody talks about him as the stickler for detail, get it done right, get it done hard, no excuses. He's a driver. And I respect it.
Oh, me too.
Some people get their feelings hurt, but some people love him and respect him more because he's like that gunny drill sergeant in all the movies. You know what I mean?
I've expressed this many times, and Bosun Johnson is, in my opinion, the epitome of a all old salty, chief bosun that. Just the epitome of it. And, to be quite honest, he scared the shit out of me when I first showed up there. But you know what?
I never smart aleck. You needed somebody.
I really never let him know that I was afraid of him type of thing. I wasn't afraid of him because he reminded me a lot of my dad somewhat. But, he taught me a lot. And
he made your boot camp instructor look like a librarian.
For sure. Yep, but
he made your boot camp instructor look like a nice, friendly customer service guy.
But Bosun Johnson, and you're my one of my Navy heroes. Always will be. God bless you. Then Gunner Stouch, he also was a stand-up human being. And,
another one of those guys. Salty, old school.
Kind of cut from the same cloth. I think they bunked together. I think they had the same stateroom, but nothing got past him. He
definitely attention to detail, right?
I heard he died a few months ago, and that's too bad. I would like to see him again, but
rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Gunner Stouch. But he was a really good man, too. I mean, he was fair. You had to keep your shit squared away there, too, just like your Chief Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy.
You're thinking somewhere it's got to give that whole ship was wired that way.
Well, hey,
that ship was wired that way. It's not
why you think we all hang out together? Because I think it taught us the right way.
That's another observation I didn't even think about.
I
like to be insightful, but that's very true. And we wonder why we like to hang out and have a reunion, and why we, even for no reason, even if we didn't hang out on the ship then, now it's more important. Now that we meet as men with wisdom and life experience and pain and suffering and survival, we come out the other side like, you're still here? Oh, you remind me of my history, and I remind you of yours, and we remind each other. And that's what we can do and where we've been and how far we climb. And when we get out in the civilian world, like I said in another cast, not everybody's been on mission together like us. They've just
Yeah.
worked together with you over at Kinko's or whatever they did.
Well, they didn't live together, sleep together, eat together, stand watch together, travel together, have each other's back in foreign countries. You can't teach that.
No.
You can't. The only way you teach that is life experience. And
greatest college in the world, man.
Great. Yep. That's right. Hard knocks, baby.
I told a friend of mine, a civilian guy, he was going to inherit a bunch of money. And I told him, I said, hey, beer number 2. This one's bigger, though. But I told him, I said, don't go buy a fancy car and, don't just blow it on one fancy thing. I said, go take that money and travel the world. That's the best education I can advise you, and I really believe that. Because don't you think that most of the stuff you learned is by seeing a little bit of everything? That's been your intake?
That's the only way I ever learned anything, man. I can read a book. I can do that. But, I think OJT, baby.
That's right.
On-job training, on-job life skills is, you get, I remember, it's funny, Gunner Stouch. I remember did something screwed up. I was pretty much 4-0. I was pretty good. Yeah. Pretty good sailor.
4-0 means that you're squared away.
Pretty much.
Top marks.
Some of you guys might laugh about that, but I remember I did something stupid, and Gunner and Chief Taylor's like, Hillabrandt, one all shit'll screw up 100 attaboys. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I still use that saying with my kids.
Or they say 100 attaboys and you're back to shit again?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, yeah, it's really easy to fall back. But it's so, after you were on the ship and we get deployed to Desert Storm, it's interesting because you were going to work harder than you did your whole time, I'm sure. Wise, were you guys just around the clock?
I remember some times that just, 48 hours straight, really. That's not an exaggeration.
We did get the Battle E, come on.
I know.
Because guys like you busting your ass.
I can just remember just driving them bombs, man. Driving them bombs. Working down the holds, and that was part of the war that, we contributed to that, to uploading all those carriers and all the other true battleships that pelted that country.
There was things that, like I discussed in another cast I was mentioning to you earlier, like one of my friends, EW2 Griffith, didn't see a lot of the scary stuff that I saw and stuff that you might have seen and stuff that everyone else might have seen. That's part of the podcast, is to investigate and understand, because there's 400 different sets of eyes and 400 different experiences of that same location and event. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yep. Did you see any crazy stuff when you were out there? On watch or anything?
Oh, yeah. I can't really remember that part so much. I remember going up through the straits right there, up into the northern Arabian Gulf there, and just having ships on either side of us, getting escorted through there.
How about the Iranians putting their guns across our deck?
Iranians putting their guns across our deck and having a few boats close to us, and
provocateurs. Everyone's just hearing about it 30 years later now on Twitter and Facebook. Now they're hearing about it.
Floating mines that were out there, Remember seeing really close. We came pretty close to a couple of them.
You're damn right.
If I remember right, we were pretty dang close.
Well, I had us change course once. So I saw it. I go, that's mine. Yeah. I don't know. I go like, wouldn't you rather just make the turn and figure it out later?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't a long negotiation.
Yeah,
it's like,
sure.
You can rip my ass later. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I remember being on the 50 cal up front when there was a boat. I think it was now that I know what it was a Kuwaiti fishing dhow. Mm-hmm. That was coming in our exclusion area, right? And Boy, I just about blew that boat out of the water. You know, if it came any closer, it finally made that turn. I think they knew from.
Or they were just blessed.
They're just blessed because I tell you what, I was really close to lighting them up. But
your watch was different, so I'm just picking this up now. I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
Your Gunners Mate stood a watch on top of the unreps as a security perimeter watch while we were in there, right?
We did
on manned weapons.
We would man the weapons. I mean, the whole time, if you were out there, you know, the whole time, if you didn't know, I mean, we manned those gun mounts, and a lot of the deck people did too.
Right.
There was like 50 cal mounts, and I mean, we all, as much as you think that ship couldn't, you know, protect itself, you know. We could have, you know, from at least small boats and small arms.
Pirates or anything
Pirates
like that.
or something like that, you know.
For sure.
Big incoming missiles, you know. We don't have
That's
a ship.
a different thing.
But that's why we're in a battle group, though.
Yeah.
So.
No, that ship, I felt we had a good team. We had a great crew on there. I mean, that's why we get all those awards. But when I caught the pirates at night, it was blacked out, and I had a thing called night scope, which is like an infrared, but it goes off starlight scope.
Starlight scope,
yeah. And I caught them coming up, and I called down to the quarterdeck. They called the destroyer, chased them away. But they had snuck across. Our battle group was going one direction. Mm-hmm. They had snuck across the friggin' destroyer.
Yeah.
And they were coming towards us.
Uh-huh.
And it was like 2, 3 a.m. And I guarantee you, 5 or 6 man guys with proper training could have jumped on that fantail, run through that ship, and done whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
Talk about a high-value target, the Mount Hood.
Well, totally, yeah.
The highest of high.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the crazy shit. Like, hey, there's the guys over here, and it doesn't, there's no, dude, I'm not looking for anyone to think I'm great. That's my job. That's any other guy's job doing the same job.
Well, I think that's why we're having so much problem with the Navy today is all these, you know, collisions at sea. We never saw that one way back then.
No.
We had actual, there's no,
the signalman rating was taken away in 2003.
And there's no exception for human eyes, you know.
You can't replace it.
They can't replace that. And they tried to, and I think it's failing miserably.
Yeah, it's really changed.
Yeah.
So you went from the Mount Hood, you did Desert Storm with us.
Yes, sir.
And then how was your transition? You went into civilian life, 1991?
Yeah, I got off the ship in 91. That was a trip.
Yeah.
You know, I went to 91. I got off the ship and I got
to Fremont or wherever.
Yeah, I was in Fremont, shacked up with this chick in Fremont, and then wound up working for Earl Shive Auto Painting.
Okay.
I'll pay you any car for $19.95.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
$29.99.95.
Was it that
I'll pay
cheap?
your car. No.
Or $299 or something
whatever.
like that. $199.
Well, you know, one car for you, one car for me.
Yeah.
So that was on, believe it or not, East 14th in Oakland, right down in the hood right there. So I started there, and believe it or not, there's this guy from Texas, Williams, BM3 Williams, skinny dude. You guys know who I'm talking about. He was working for Earl Shive too. But then I got another shop down in San Pablo Boulevard in Berkeley. And let's just say, you know, I was doing stuff I shouldn't have been doing, and
The temptation for mischief was there as a civilian.
Oh, yeah.
I ran into nothing but friggin' people that would have just got you into jail. And the first people you meet, the nicest, friendly ones, are the sneaky ones that are waiting for you as a civilian when you get out of the military.
You know, well,
unless you're lucky. I'm not speaking for everybody, but that was my experience.
I was lucky because, you know, I hooked up with these guys that I knew, you know, believe it or not, I was pumping gas in Oakland one time by the Coliseum, and this guy wound up making friends with this dude that wound up being like this heavy hitter gangster dude that kind of got me into that and took me under his wing a little bit. But that lasted for a while. I don't want to get into that much, but it sure was fun.
Well, you still kept your nose clean enough to go back in the Navy.
And then I
what drew you? You said this is just too much heat. I need to get back on my ship,
pretty
get
much,
away from the noise.
Pretty much. I'm like,
Too much liberty.
This is crazy. I was like living a life that wasn't going to let me live very long, to be quite honest with you.
Right.
So I'm like, you need to make a change. And
I appreciate your honesty. That's honest, good stuff.
So I did that and went into that, and I went back in. I went to.
How long were you civilian before you went back into the military?
I was 1 year, about a year and a half. A year
and a half, and
maybe a year and a half.
The civilian disco fever was a bit much.
It was pretty awesome at the beginning, but then the walls were closing in really fast on me. Put it that way. In the lifestyle I was living, so I'm like, get your shit together, Mark, and I rejoined the military, and well, it took a little bit, but I took my ASVAB and
you want to score a little higher coming in this time?
Scored my ASVAB a little higher, and I went into buds and did that.
Did you go to A school first after you took your ASVAB,
nope.
or did you just need it?
I was already at E5 when I got out.
Okay.
So I got back in at E5 and went to a different route that we'll talk about later.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, it's been good having you on here. Anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Just all our people, the reunion people, all my brothers and sisters out there that we all kick it with, and
you go into the next reunion wherever it is.
It
could be in Alaska. That's
which is really cool though. I mean, we got this plaque for being the people in the Navy to do this, the reunion type of thing. But
look at this podcast. That's what this is.
It means it means a lot
in the Navy. We are the first ship in the Navy to do this podcast. Yeah. I've been trying to get that across.
All my boys and girls out there, right on.
That's right. That's good old Mark signing off. And stay tuned for more podcasts. Like us on Facebook at AEC Stories. Subscribe to our podcast. Please share it with your friends. And if you're interested in starting a podcast on a different part of the Navy, hit me up. I'd be glad to help.